Are we live?
Yes, we are now. Yeah, so good morning, everyone. We are live now, Janaki, on Facebook. Good morning to
Good
you,
morning.
and thank you for taking time out to join this conversation. Um, so, Ekansh Trust, everyone, as we know, works to empower persons with disabilities. And we especially enjoy talking to people who help us in this journey in different ways. We may know some of them, we may not know a lot of them. One of the people whose work I have always appreciated is Janaki Vishwanath, who is with us today in this chat. She runs an organization called Sathi Haath Badhana, uh, which is self-explanatory in itself. One of the verticals, if we can call it that, using corporate jargon, is listening post that we had spoken about earlier when we were talking to mothers of children with different disabilities. But first, I would like Janaki to introduce herself because I may leave out a few important details. Please introduce yourself and tell us what SHB is all about, what prompted you to begin an organization like that. Janaki.
Thanks a lot, Anita, and thank you for giving this opportunity and being on with your team. It's wonderful to be here and to talk about the work that we do. A lot of our work is synchronized as well. So I think in terms of space, we are all working in the same space. Yeah, Satihat Badana means Satihat Badana because the work that we are doing has to be collaborative. There's no one person doing it, and all organizations working in similar spaces have to work together, which is how I thought of the name Satihat Badana. Because people make spelling mistakes in checks, I made it SHP Social Foundation. That's a fact. Yeah, and what we do, yes, like you said, listening post is one of our verticals. That's what we started with. We have a few other programs now, but all the other programs have started from listening post. Very briefly, I'll just talk about what is listening post. It's a safe space. It's a space for anybody to come in and talk about any issue. Often, what happens is we have issues or problems, as we call it in our life, and they may not even be problems. We may not even have seen them as problems, but they are gnawing at us. They're causing us stress. They're causing us anxiety, and we are not. It is preventing us from being happy, whatever it is. Sometimes we are not even able to put a finger onto what is it that is causing us stress. And at that point, it is our confused thinking. And sometimes we are too deep into the issue and we are not able to have clarity in terms of where the problem lies or what we are supposed to do about it. And it always helps to talk to somebody and understand what we are going through. And often in our today's days and age, we don't have that somebody. We live modern stressful lives. Families are nuclear. There are two or three or four members max within a family. Also within family, we are not sure if it is a safe space. People are judgmental. People may take offense with what we have to say. If it is a child who has a problem with a parent, for example, the child cannot speak to the parent about it. She needs another person to talk about that issue. So we feel sometimes talking in a safe space to a stranger who is able to take a dispassionate view of what you are going through and allow you to reflect and give you the space by asking questions and allow you to reflect and understand what you are going through. Sometimes it is all about listening to ourselves, which we are not able to do by ourselves. So we just enlist another volunteer to help us listen to ourselves. So with that in mind is what we started listening post, that we have the safe space and we can guarantee confidentiality, and you can talk to a trained volunteer and he or she can help you reflect better by asking the right questions.
So how do you train your volunteers? When you say train them, what is the kind of training they receive? Are they trained by qualified psychologists or psychotherapists? What kind of training do they receive to be able to listen without judging, listen without interrupting, um, and listen without giving recommendations, not knowing the person who is speaking to them completely and the background, etc. So restraint is a big thing, major thing, I guess, in listening post, and knowing what suggestions to give. So what kind of training do they receive?
Yeah, in terms of training, see, first of all, our listening post volunteers are not therapists or are not psychologists themselves. They are people from all walks of life. We have entrepreneurs, we have men, women, entrepreneurs, teachers, housewives. It's a mix. And they come from all walks and they are in all age groups. Even if they are, or even if they have done like a counseling course, we still want them to do our training. What we do in training is we tie up with Connecting. You must have heard of Connecting, which is the suicide helpline in Bombay. I mean in Pune. And Connecting trains all its helpline volunteers. Our volunteers undergo the same Connecting helpline training. So our volunteers, so Connecting in that sense is our training partner. Our volunteers go to Connecting for training, and then when they come back with some of the senior volunteers, there is an overlap of 3 months before they are able to do listening by themselves. So that is what we do. So even including counselors, because the way we look at listening, it is not an advisory role. We do not offer advice. Whereas as a counselor, sometimes you are prone to telling them what you should do. And that is not what we want to do in listening post. We believe in listening post, if you have a problem or if you think you may have a problem, you in your situation know best what will work. I am nobody to suggest to you that this is what you should do, because it may work for you, it may not work for you. It may work for me but not for you. So we trust that you as an individual can think through the ramifications of whatever you are doing, and we are only helping you or facilitating that thinking process that you need to do. You will find your own solution. So as listeners, we are not passive listeners, we are active listeners. So we call this active listening. And through the process of active listening, without being judgmental, without judging the person as to what you have done, but at the same time assuring a safe space and confidentiality, we are able to help that person reflect better. And that's what we do. So it's not passive because we ask questions. We allow that person to build a new perspective. So sometimes when somebody is narrating a situation and we say, this is what if let me get it right, is this what you're telling me? And they'll say, yeah, this is what is happening. And say, what about this? Have you thought about this? Oh, now that you're asking me this, I never thought of it. So maybe I should also look at it from this point of view. So what we are doing through the process of reflective thinking is to give them that space to think freely and allow them to develop newer perspectives. And that's, we feel that's how listening works.
Right. Another thing I wanted to ask you was, have you seen any kind of pattern in the sense, who are the people that actually call you most often? Are they teenagers? What age group typically calls you? Do men also call? Because men have not been traditionally known to reach out when they have problems or ask anybody else for even directions on the street, let alone directions in life. So do men call and want to be heard? Because their complaint is usually that they're not heard at home because they don't get to speak. So all of those jokes aside, do they call? Elders, do they manage to reach out? Or is it usually women who have the time and the confidence to call a complete stranger and vent or rant? Is it usually the women who do that? So what kind of a sort of percentage of each age group do you find, or each gender do you find typically?
So I'll split this into pre-lockdown and post-lockdown, because pre-lockdown was only a walk-in space, and once lockdown has started, we also have a telephonic call-in. It's not a walk-in space anymore for some time at least, till lockdown was lifted completely, and it is safe for our volunteers. So right now, from March 19th, we have been running it on call every day. but calls and walk-ins have happened across age, across gender. Even amongst our volunteers, we have both men and women, and even amongst walk-ins, and the range of issues is varied. We have adolescents, we have parents of adolescents, especially parents of teenagers who are going through a tough time. We have seniors, we have men, relationship issues, work issues, entrepreneurs who are running their own businesses, women, work-life balance issues, young kid, young mothers, who cannot, who are too stressful about managing the kid, and mothers of special children who are handling the stress themselves completely by themselves. Yeah, it's a full gamut. I really, amongst issues, when we last did analysis, what kind of issues? Work issues, relationship issues, communication issues. Especially when you look at adolescents and parents of adolescents, most of it is because there is no communication. The kid thinks my parents don't care for me, they are always after me, they want me to study all the time, blah 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 blah. The parents think he or she is just locking himself in the room, not talking to us. We don't know if he's studying or if he's on his phone, or exams are approaching, we don't know how to help him, right? So it's always accusatory, and the kid is blaming the parents, the parents are blaming the kid. But then it also indicates at that point of time a complete lack of communication. The kid is struggling because of stress, which the parents are not seeing it as a stressful period for the child at that point of time, maybe board exams or whatever. So we have had different programs evolving for different aspects or different segments and different issues that they have come up with. For example, seniors, the first lot of seniors who came, elders, and most of them we could relate to loneliness, because either they were living by themselves or there were just two of them. The children were not in the same town, either they were abroad, but even if in India, not in the same town, they were not seeing their grandchildren often, or they had moved from another, they had, one of them had become single, they had moved from another town to be with the children, so they don't have friends of their same age group or their network, and then again they are lonely. So all these kind of issues are also there, and people can walk in or talk about these issues.
So does there come a time sometimes in the conversation when you realize that they need expert help, and you can see
Yes.
that they're coming from a not very comfortable place, and they need some kind of help with resolving the problems that they have? Because often when you talk about parents and children, especially adolescents, you may find that you know there is a history, maybe sometimes of abuse even, and there is a need for experts to step in at some point. So do you have a group of experts that you refer them to, the callers to?
Yeah, how we look at listening post is like a GP. When you are running a temperature, you go to a GP, and then if it is not a big issue, it's sorted out with that first visit. If it is a bigger issue, you go back to your doctor, and then the doctor says get these tests done, and you can go. You know, but like a family doctor will probably call you up the next day and say, I asked you to go and get these tests done in the lab. Did you go? Okay,
Right.
that step we don't do, but till that step we do. So listening post is like a first point where we help you understand what the problem is, maybe, or sometimes it has just been a reflective process. You go back, you do your own thinking. There are times when people come back and say, I walked in last week and then I have been thinking, but there are a couple of other things which I didn't mention, so I would like to talk again. So there'll be people, so it's, for some people it may take 2 3 visits before they understand that they may have an issue. Some people, yes, if it is, let's say, a past history of abuse or whatever, we do help them and say, listen, you may have brushed it aside, but this could have been very traumatic for you and you may need some healing. So we don't do the healing, we only point out to the person that you narrated this incident, it seems to have hurt you a lot. Do you still feel very sad about it? What is the feeling within is what we are trying to explore through that conversation. So the person also realizes that I didn't realize it was such a major event in my life when it happened, but now I'm beginning to think, yes, it is interfering in my thinking, it is interfering in my relationship. I need to seek out healing or therapy. So we have a list, but we don't particularly insist that they go there. We don't follow up. We leave it to the person. The idea is, the reason why it is a walk-in space or a call-in space is because we want the person to take ownership of that issue and resolve it himself or herself. Because if I take charge of my problem, I will figure out how to get help or how to resolve it, and
Right.
then I will go after the therapist. I don't need my GP to call me and say, did you do this, did you do this? So we are waiting for the person to take ownership about that issue. Just help him understand where he is and what resources are available, and if he wants our list, it's available. But he's also available, I mean, he's also free to look up a therapist on his own. And we explain to him how the process works, what sort of therapies are available, and if he has started his therapeutic treatment as well or medication, he may want to come back to us and say, this is what I'm doing, do you think I'm on the right path? So those sort of things happen.
Right. Are there any happy stories that you may want to share where you have felt good about having, helped a person see beyond his or her problems and actually find a solution? Anything that comes to
There are,
mind immediately, positive
yeah,
or
there are,
negative,
yeah,
where
no,
you
there
wish?
are very many happy stories. I don't want to share because we are very tightly strict with our confidentiality, and that's why we do have the safe space. But I can tell you about seniors, for example, when a lot of them were talking to us about loneliness or about being alone, and we realized some of them were challenged by technology. And so we started a smartphone assistance group as a reach out space for seniors. So seniors now it is running because of lockdown, it's running on WhatsApp. But a lot of seniors openly talk about other issues as well on that group. One, two, when it used to happen every, like today is a Wednesday, every Wednesday we would have 5:30 to 6:30 class for the seniors. They would come there and make friends. We have cases of people who have come there for class, and we say, "Acha, chalo, take out your phones," and then auntie will search inside a bag and say, "आज मैं phone ही भूल गई." Then we'll say, "अरे auntie, but आप तो class पे आए हैं, तो phone कैसे भूल?" Then we realize that sometimes they are not coming for the technology. They are coming for the peer support, they are coming for that conversation with other people their age. And then as they are in class or they're going out, they are discussing some acupressure, which doctor, this is a health remedy, I use a lot of turmeric in this cooking, all that. Okay, which is a network, in a sense, for support. That's also emotional support. And though we started this group as a smartphone technology assisted group, it turns out that we are giving a lot more comfort and a lot more emotional support than technology. So to me, that's a very happy story.
That's wonderful to know. Anytime you felt or wished that you could have done more when people haven't come back for the second or the third call or the second or third visit, when you knew in your heart that, or wished in your heart that they would, there must have been a
No, I
couple.
mean, we are very clear in our boundaries. We are very, very clear on our here and now. So there are times when people call again, and we treat the next call as a here and now. And we really sometimes do not need to go to the previous case of what he came for. So sometimes people come even 2 3 times, and each time is a different issue. It's not really related to the first one. So that is heartening, because then we know that they are seeking this support and we are able to help them. That's why he's come back second time when he's had another issue to talk about. So we are very strict in our boundaries. We don't follow up as a policy. But we do get mails, we do get calls, we get WhatsApp messages. People say, I came into Listening Post 2 years back, and since then I have moved on. Now I'm working in Bangalore. This is where I am. But I think that walk in 2 years back really helped me get a fresh perspective. So we know it's helping. And sometimes it's through these mails and messages. And sometimes people call up and tell us. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Very many happy stories.
no, I think it's wonderful to have a space where which is non-judgmental, which is compassionate, like you call it, where people can go and share their, stressors, which is something that is really needed. Um, I also wanted to ask you, what are the other activities that you have in SHP that you think are important? Like I know that you had a lawyer who came in and gave legal advice to women who were seeking it. You also
Yeah,
had somebody giving financial advice to women who were seeking it. Uh,
yeah,
Financial advice also is needed by a lot of parents of children with disabilities because they don't know how to create a trust or save money
after,
on
yeah.
behalf of their children that they can use later. Property also, when they have one child with a disability, how do they secure the property or the money for a child with a disability? So do you have sessions on such issues also?
Yeah, so we have most of the other programs are offshoots of the listening post program, because sometimes we realize that only when the person has talked about that issue that we wake up to the fact that in the community these other services are not available. And like, I can refer the person to a therapist, but if that problem is different and it is not going to get resolved by a therapist, and that needs a different kind of a solution and it's not there in the community, then maybe we need to be providing that, especially if there is a pattern to some cases. With that in mind, we have a legal cell, because there are many women who are going through separation or want to consider separation, even before they've thought of separation. Sometimes they are going through abusive marriages, and but they are afraid to go and talk to a lawyer because they don't want to lose custody of the only child that they have, or so they're caught and they don't know their own rights. So we felt it is good to have a lawyer in our panel. If somebody needs to ask, even before she goes to her lawyer, our lawyer will not fight her case, but our lawyer will help her understand where she is, and will also let her understand what her rights are in that marriage, and what options are available to her, not just separation. There could be maintenance, child needs a father, so how to work those things out. And all these solutions are available within the constitution, within the family court arrangements, but people don't know about it. Similarly with finance, we felt many women who are earning as well do not take charge of their own money. The money is being managed by the husband or the father or the brother. The men of the house are in charge of her money. Whereas for women to be truly empowered, she should be handling her money. She should be investing. She should know how to save for the child's education or for her own future. Or if she, even if she wants to take a holiday 3 years from now, how she should start saving for it. We've had instances in listening post where women have been widowed very young, okay, and they have got the money from the organization, from the husband's organization or insurance, and they have trusted family and friends with that money. And after 2 years, suddenly the lady with the child is left with hardly anything, because others have not handled it well, or they have handled it with a view to take it all off. So in which case we find that lady should know how to handle her money. She certainly got a huge sum. So it may be in case of widowhood, it may be in case of separation also. You have got a one time settlement amount from the husband after the divorce has happened, but you need that money to last you. It's not like a monthly maintenance that's coming to you. So if you got a one time settlement and the child's custody, and the child is only in class 4, let's say, you have to make sure that that money lasts for that child's college education. So if I am not aware of how to save or where to invest, and make sure that I take calculated risks, but at the same time, most of my money is safe and is available when I want it. So goal based investing is very important. And these are not things that we learn in school, and neither in college. No, any professional education also, still we don't learn these things. So I feel these are important life skills. If you know these, you can reduce stress in your life a bit, because you have control, you have agency, and you can take charge. So I do understand when you say about children with disabilities, because then they need more money, because then the child needs to be taken care medical assistance may be required, special equipment may be required, going to special school may cost more. So both parents need to know, but more so the single parent definitely needs to know.
Absolutely. There is one question in the Ekansh page. Padma is asking, do people come on their own or are they told by family to go to listening post? How do they come to know about listening post? So Padma ji, they come to know when people, groups like Ekansh Trust share this online, and all of us should actually. This is the way, there are a lot of posts being put up on Facebook where we talk about building each other up. This is one way to do it. If we can at least share the stories of people who are doing good work, I think that will count for a lot, especially in times like this when technology has taken over. We should start using technology to actually, build each other up and make sure that the kind of services that we provide reach as many people as possible, which is what we are trying to do through this series of webinars on Zoom. But yes, that has been the most convenient so far. Uh, Anything else, Janaki, that you would like to say about SHB or any of the services that your organization offers that you would like to
Sure.
share?
Before that, I'll just like to answer Padmaji's question on how do people come. Yes, people do get referred also. People get referred by their GPs. We get cases referred from the police as well. There are times when people are going through tough situations, and so they do refer cases as well. We also have listening post in the family court, so lawyers and judges in the family court who think that sometimes some person is going through too much of emotional stress and is not able to look at things dispassionately, and they may need a venting space. They also come to, so we have listening posts happening in the family court once a week as well. So yeah, we do get references as well, and people are free to walk in. We have our own Facebook page. We put our posters, we share on our Facebook page, and we are trying to get to other social media. But yes, the main thing about SHB is it's run completely by volunteers. We have 22 volunteers, most of whom are professionals in other fields. So we have engineers, entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, and all of them are volunteering. They don't get paid. In fact, they don't even take conveyance money from us. They are too sweet. They all have full-time jobs as well. So they manage their work, manage their homes, and also give time to listening post. They give time to the training first, and then to daily slots or weekly slots. We have a calendar that they commit to, and then they are really professional to the commitment. So it doesn't take me too much time to request a volunteer and say, hello, will you do this? And there's immediately 5 hands which go up. So it's an amazing team, and it's not a job. And I'm so glad that, that's my most biggest blessing is our volunteers. They are amazing. So yeah, that's what. More about it, yes, any money will help. People can donate.
More about SHB, anything else? Any other questions anyone has? Or Janaki, if there's anything else that you wanted to say?
I wrote down a few so that I don't miss out any. I
I
think
thought as much.
one, yeah, see my gray hair. Yeah, so one of the most important things that we insist both for our volunteers and people we meet is self-care. I think we need to take responsibility for ourselves and care about ourselves. So it's whether it is a mother or a husband or a child or a parent or a caregiver for a parent, all of us are in relationships doing some things for each other. Apart from that, we also have our jobs and careers. So there are going to be stresses. There is no world free of stress. So stress is a given. Whether it is X or 10X is the only variation. We need to understand how to handle that stress and make sure that we take care of ourselves. The more we neglect ourselves, the more stress is going to build up and the more depression that's going to happen. So even if you're a mother of a child who's a disabled child, for example, the mother needs to care for herself before she can care for the child. Often, as a mother, our outlook is, let me do things for the kid first, and then time hai to fir apna dekh lungi. But that's very wrong, and that's a conditioning that we need to get over. When we are flying in an aircraft, we are always told when the air pressure drops and the mask comes, put it on yourself first before you can attend to your infant, right? So unless you take care of yourself, and if you are the primary giver, you could be the primary caregiver for the child or for your parent, whichever the role that you are playing currently. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't be a good caregiver. So we say that every day for volunteers as well, but it's true for all of us. We need to take care of ourselves, make sure we have enough nutrients, rest. It comes down and boils to the basics: exercise, food, rest. If you have taken care of yourself, you can do anything for any other person, and you're physically and mentally well balanced. Emotional balance comes from physical and mental balance. That's yeah, I'll leave it with that.
I think, yeah, all of us need to listen to that last bit of advice over and over and start practicing in our daily lives. You and me included, Janaki.
Absolutely. It's easy to say, difficult to do. There are many milestones that we need to, and we may fail on them, but when we fail on them, we need to forgive ourselves, give ourselves a hug,
Yeah,
and say, okay, let me try again.
absolutely.
That's it.
Because I saw that you began with, look at my gray hair. So that's how it goes gray in the first place. Thank you so much for this
Absolutely.
conversation. It was fun talking to you and a lot of learning, and I'm sure many people will get in touch with you soon. I will provide a link along with the video on Facebook and also share it with the people I know. You can also do the same. I'll put it up on YouTube and make sure that this reaches a lot of people who need this kind of support today. Thank you so much,
Thank
Janaki.
you.
And have
Thank
a
you so much,
wonderful day.
Anita. And I think you and Ekant, and I know it's one and the same, doing an amazing, amazing job. So God bless and best wishes.
To you too. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone that's watching. Thank you.